would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Angela Bracken and I'm a Sister of Mercy. And at the present time I'm living in Longford in the Midlands.
Are you from that area yourself, Angela?
Well, not really. I grew up in Athlone, and then the family, when I was in my mid-teens, we moved to Salt Hill in Galway. But I went to second level school, boarding school in Moat with the Sisters of Mercy. But I had my primary education in La Santa Unia on the Bower in Athlone.
And was that a good experience for you?
It was lovely. I didn't start school till halfway through second class. My grandmother had taught me before that, but that's another story.
Yes, and then you moved on to the Mercies.
Yes, secondary school in Moat. And I suppose what was special about Moat was that it was, there was a good emphasis on academics, but the arts were very important, and music and drama. And that's where I think I thrived. I would have learned the piano as a child, and then the violin, and taking part in school musicals and all of that. That was all encouraged. And choirs were very special too. So I'd have to say my second level schooling was, it was a very positive experience, and I was always very taken by the dedication of the sisters there and how well we were looked after.
But you mentioned drama there.
Yeah, drama has been a part of my life from the time I was a little one. And we used to do plays in the garage for the local toddlers and bribe them with sherbet to come and be audience. And then the Amateur Drama Festival began in Athlone, and I was there for the very first one. And I implored my dad to let me skip school to go to A Midsummer's Night's Dream, and I was enthralled and captivated. It was the runners, I think, from Tullamore who did it at the time. And I suppose that drama and music were on both sides of the family, and I inherited that love. And I think at a certain point, really all I ever wanted was the stage. I just loved it.
But you went on and you actually...
Well, it was like this when I was 18 and I had to make a decision, and it was the convent or the stage. And I kind of said, well, if I don't do this now, I might never do it and I might regret it. So I'll give it a go. So I entered then at 18. It was a very radical decision at the time. And anyway, all I can say at this stage of my life now, that, Mercy was so good to me. And in no time, sure, I was back in the middle of it all again. And, I trained as a primary school teacher in Carysfort. And I was started in Moat teaching infants in the primary school. And there was an extra hour at the end of the day then. And that meant I did music and singing and drama with the other classes. And then I was involved, I used to go to the summer schools in Gormanston for the Drama League of Ireland. And that was a week of total immersion. And I got a lot of my education, if you like, there too, with wonderful teachers. And it was really amazing that, as I say, Mercy has been very good to me. And, I was involved in Tops of the Town, Scorn and Oaks, Sloga, to name a few. Parish Variety, which could be quite cutthroat, by times. And it was just great.
And was this supported then, or was somebody saying...
I'll tell you what, when I entered, the first thing they did was they gave me a cello, because the cellist was gone on the missions. So, right, I learned the cello, and when I was in college then, I used to get out every Saturday to my music teacher, Kathleen Behan, who was in the light orchestra. And it was a real outing, And then I did the exams as well, and I suppose I taught it too and played in the orchestras. And then somehow the word went out that there was a nun who played the cello. So they used to ask me to play in Athlone and Tullamore and Clara. and different schools as well. So I would be teaching by day, maybe just straight after school, might do guitar lessons or something with the children or whatever instrument, and then do, you know, well, we were really kind of, you had the monastic structure in a way, but we were active. Now I was probably hyperactive, if you like, but somehow or another, I just seemed to have all this scope. And at the same time, you know, my community life was very important as well. And I was so well supported.
And how did you find yourself in this monastic setup? Like, did you resist it?
No, do you know what I was thinking now when I was, we have a priest in Longford, and he says, do you know what I was thinking when I was sitting there on the chair, you know, and everybody just kind of sits up to listen. But somehow or another, at this stage of my life, especially during COVID, which was a time where whatever bit of a contemplative is in there, you know, seemed to surface. And when I began to think, you know, about my life, I think if I had gone on the stage or that, I might have burnt myself out. But I think now, because of the structure, the prayer structure, the fact that I was teaching in school and all of that, that it gave me a containment and a holding. And within that containment, I think whatever gifts I had were encouraged and I thrived. Whereas if I had, it all just seems like providence, and providence has been a huge part of my life as I've seen it. Everything's like, you know, they say life is but a dream. And sometimes when I think of it, it's like when you'd roll a film, you know, and it all just, when it kind of passes in front of your eyes. And I say to myself, how did all this happen? You know, and then I found myself training as a drama therapist. And where I saw that I loved teaching every minute of it, but then the time came and I kind of knew that my teaching energy, I needed, and the school I was in at the time needed, it was in a transition phase, and it needed something. I wasn't quite so sure what, but then as part of a project in drama and theatre studies, I went to a summer school in St Albans, and it was an experience of drama as therapy. And I said, this is what I've been looking for, because drama in itself is therapeutic, but there's a stage beyond which you know you've got to contain it, because emotions can be released. But when you're, as a drama therapist then, your school, the tools of your trade are your drama and theatre skills. But you think about the work then psychotherapeutically. And that's informed by, you know, the psychodynamic theories.
So you had to go to St Albans. Where is that?
Oh,
exactly?
in Hertfordshire. And it was in St Albans, the city of St Albans. And it was a lovely experience. There were 24 of us in the group, international group from Greece and Canada, Australia. And there were three Irish people, and I was the second oldest. I was in my, I'll say, late 40s at the time. I used to say sometimes to people when I was having myself recycled. And it was just, it was really wonderful. It was total immersion. And then I stayed on and did the advanced training. And I think the people in England probably had more foresight than I had at the time, because drama therapy, there were only few drama therapists in Ireland at the time. And I worked in a Mercy school there to make the transition from teacher to therapist. And then I came back, and a friend of Gabriel Harrison, he was in the department. I wondered how I might get back into the primary system in Longford, where I was. I went there in 1985 and had taught in the school for 6 years. And he said that the concessionary post for a disadvantaged school, for DESH, had been granted. And that post, you could use it, you know, to alleviate disadvantage in whatever way the school. And he said, creative ways would be good. So he said, just, make out a plan and present it.
So you got this position, Angela?
I did. I got the position, but first of all, I gave a kind of a talk to the teachers. I came home from England and said, well, this is what I have to offer, and if you're interested. And they did. Now, in the beginning, the therapy, they said, oh yeah, they all went for creative drama for every class in the school. And I had been involved in National Children's Choir as well, so that was huge interest too. The late Sean Kramer was another mentor. You see, I've met so many, extraordinary people along the way who would say, I'm thinking of doing this, would you be interested? So of course I was always interested. And that's how a lot of things just happen for me. And it's like that, things just happening.
But you went on then to set up.
Oh yeah, where every class in the school had creative drama. And then I used to do kind of large singing sessions and the National Children's Choir. And then if different groups got to hear, I would have done, maybe I'd do a few sessions with the women's group or, and then you see the therapies, so there was a day, Monday was the therapy day. It took a while for that to take off and it was set up. Now, the creative drama was curricular provision, but the drama therapy was a provision that was offered in the school, but with the ethical guidelines of therapy, with parental consent and informed consent and, all of those. And I went for supervision to Dublin every 2 weeks to a wonderful supervisor, who was involved. And then IACAT, the Irish Association of Creative Arts Therapists. I was a member of that. And you see, the arts therapies were, in their infancy in a way. You had Crawford, you had the art therapy, and Limerick then set up music therapy, but the drama therapy was the Cinderella in a way. And I think other people saw that if we were to have a course in Ireland, that I might be the one. Because you see, the mercy gives you, I suppose, I was free where other people had family commitments and other commitments, and somehow it all happened.
So what happened then, Angela? Because you actually set up the first
yes.
module of
drama therapy.
Yeah,
it was we set up the Masters in Drama Therapy in Maynooth. But I had been doing some modules on the drama and theatre studies. Dr. Tom Madden, who would have been a long time drama friend of mine from the Gormanston days, and he decided that we needed in the drama world, the amateur drama world, maybe to kind of gather all the expertise that people really had and to give people some maybe certification and training. So I would have done that. It was an extramural 2-year training in Maynooth, the very first one that they did. But then when I had trained as a drama therapist, I was invited back to do some modules to the following, on an introduction really to the arts therapies through the medium of drama therapy.
And who was interested in doing those modules?
Oh, a wide range of people who would have an interest in drama on different levels or a training in drama. But then they also would have felt that they would like maybe to work therapeutically, but there wasn't a programme. But to cut a long story short, we with great help from Alida Garcia and David Powley, the English people whom I knew, and they would have been external advisors to the course, and it passed the academic council and we set it up, and that was, the first one was in 2002 to 2004, and that was what I used to call my swan song, because it's rather interesting in a way to go from the infant room to the hallowed halls of Maynooth. But it was a great experience too. In a way, the child is always in the man or the woman, and it certainly, and the play is so important. Oh yeah, but when I was, I remember when I was my early teaching days, because I hadn't had much experience in a way of any kind of, I had a lovely primary education, so I kind of did my own thing. And art, I used to say to, if I could get into the Dáil for 5 minutes, I'd say, would you please put drama, art, music, dance into every primary school in the country, and you could change society in a few years. Because the wonderful thing about the primary school when I was there was you have time. And oh yeah, I had a big interest in the field of autism. And I was in this, then when I retired from Maynooth, I went back to the comfort zone of St. Joseph's Primary School in Longford. And I did 2 days a week voluntary with creative drama. Now, when I was in Maynooth, I always kept the drama therapy day. And I did some long-term work with children with autism who would have had an SNA, their SNA. And I learned so much from my work with this young person who went on later to secondary. And the principal of the school, who set up a unit in secondary, I had taught her in senior infants. And she asked me for a moment, could I come up and talk to the staff there? And it was just lovely. And then I was in the school for the 2. Now I gave up working clinically then because of time. And then, as you get older, you just have to, there's a time for everything. And there's a time to kind of say, right, now, but then creative drama. So 2 days a week, and I did it's the 6th class, creative drama for 2 days in the school. And then COVID came.
Yes.
And that was reflection time. And that was probably the thing I found hardest, But then got all the jabs and the lot. And I had a phone call, or I had the principal asked, would I come back, that the autism units, they have 3 autism units now in the school, would I come back? Because they had asked. Well, it was, do you know the way that you say, all my birthdays came at once?
So you welcomed
So I'm
this.
back now in the school, and it's wonderful. And then the 6th class too. Had a lovely session yesterday with the 6th. And I was advised to pace myself. So I tried to do that as best I could till Easter. But the momentum is...
So you're actually putting more energy into it as time goes on.
Well,
Angela.
you see, I receive so much. I receive more than I give, and I say, like, it's just, sometimes I say, because everywhere I ever worked, I just loved it. And there's a principal now in the school, and the teachers there, and it is just to step across the threshold, and the little children. And then it's a multicultural, multi-ethnic group. And
just there, Angela, you mentioned that you did something with the Old Woman of the Roads recently.
A local, Shane Crossan, who's involved, he phoned me one day, he said, when were you on the stage last? I said, I think I'm on it all my life, really, because when you're teaching, you're kind of taking focus, really, aren't you? And you have all these little eyes looking up and so on. And he said, we're doing they've been studying Pádraig Colum in the boys' school. So would you be the Old Woman of the Roads? And I said, when would that be, Shane? Tomorrow. I said, could I have till Monday? So anyway, I was the Old Woman of the Roads in the boys' school there a couple of weeks ago, and it was extraordinary. I'd have had some of the 6th and 5th class when they were in infants for drama during, their rotations. And I kind of was expecting that say, oh, strangely, not one of them. They had the suspension of disbelief, and they went with it. And I had to try and keep myself back in a couple of centuries ago. But a famine project we had done back a few years ago was a help, where I worked with a group of 6th, where they were had been doing, they worked themselves to kind of inhabit the famine times, and they had their own, they presented it dramatically just to ourselves.
They had the suspension of disbelief.
Yes, and they really spoke to me as if I was the old woman. And there was there was one young boy, and he asked me something, and I said, and where would you, and he said, and one of the others I think said he's from Nigeria, and I said, where's Nigeria, and then he was one of the two young boys who represented the school at the Pádraig Column festival. They had the library, they had a gathering there, and the two boys stood up and spoke about their experience, and it was extraordinary because he was able to make links, with the fact that at that time with the workhouse, and some people emigrated, because part of the story it was improvisation, was that I never quite decided not to go to the or to go to America, but that I stayed and, walking the roads. But there were some other, and in one class too, they'd all would have said the poem at some point. And one group were kind of reluctant, and then they said, do you know anything about rap? And I said, what's that? And I said, that would be rapping. I rapped at many a door, And then I said, well, maybe you might do the old woman in rap. They were a bit reluctant, so there was a lovely young male teacher there too. And I said, well, maybe teacher might do it. So I declare they joined in, and they did a kind of rap version of the Old Woman of the Roads, and it was riveting, And I mean, it was just, I was meant to be about a quarter of an hour or 20 minutes in each class, but it transpired that in the half an hour in every class, just as I'm now free, like a bit Joycean in the stream of consciousness. Anyway.
Yeah, but you seem to have had spontaneity everywhere, and Mercy, you're saying, enabled you to use that space.
And you see, somehow, I suppose, no matter what I do, I remember Marina Jenkins saying to me one time, she was one of my trainers, and she was quite eminent in that sphere in the UK, and she said she would have been training me on the advanced programme. And she said, well, don't forget that whatever you are doing, you are a drama therapist doing it. And that no matter what I have been doing, I've been a sister of Mercy doing it. And Mercy is at the core, really. And I suppose my full understanding of Catherine Macaulay, and the more I go on, the more I value her values, and even taking part in an interfaith group. I was part of, we prayed every month, we met together, and that's enriched my life too, all my interfaith friends. But it's only just, this is just a kind of tiny capsule, and I'm just in awe, I think, of suppose you say the wonder of my life. And then your heart goes out to, the people of Ukraine at this point in time. And we have Ukrainian children now,
Have you any?
I will be doing post, this particular term, I will be doing a little, something.
And I'm sure it will be of great value to them.
Well, in the school they have some wonderful interventions, health and well-being, one of the resource teachers, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
But you will be using
St. Joseph's.
Drama creatively with them.
Yeah, or play therapy, or even just with, with what's in the space between, and sometimes that can be little figurines, and people will create their stories, and that's where I learned so much from the young person I accompanied through her journey for those 9 years, that I learned so much from, in terms of the autism. And hopefully now because these young people are very gifted.
Yes, and you are very
and
gifted,
I love,
Angela.
I'm very Irish now when it comes to that. Anyway.
All right, but you can give thanks for it anyway.
Well, I give, okay, so.
Or drama therapist. I hope I'm saying
well,
it correctly.
Look, that's only part, you know.
Part of your life,
of
course.
And the drama therapist is retired, but the creative drama is still
there. Well, thank you for sharing that part of your life with us.
Yeah, and before I better remember, now 2017 with the 5th class, I did my own version of Shakespeare's Midsummer's Night's Dream, and we did that, and it was like deja vu, and a wonderful young traveller girl was Titania. Now, she had to be persuaded because she wanted to be the narrator, but it was truly magical. So that was it. And yeah, I suppose row your boat. Life is put it, and it's life, you know, Mercy has been very good to me.
And obviously not boring anyway, Angela.
No, absolutely not. No.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm just very grateful. And my family, of course, my own family are, you know, they're my nieces and my nephews and grandnieces and grandnephews and and the eldest, so my sister and my brothers, and, you know, they're all into music and everything too, you know. So anyway, and my parents, but they're over there anyway on the, my mother and my mum and dad, and I had my mum since she was 100.
Yes.
And they were wonderful, like all, you know, the Irish parents, you know, everything was invested in the family, and, you know, I've been, and all the extended family too, so.
Yeah. So would you say one word about her being 100?
Yeah, she lived to be 100 in a few weeks. And I had the joy of having her near me for the last 5.5 years, you know, after my father died. And she was to the very end. She had a wonderful recall and memory, and she was an optimist, so I think I inherited that from her. And whatever bit of a reflective gene is there, it was the dad, because you know, he always gave her the floor. But you know, they were wonderful, and they let me go, you know, their eldest child, and you don't realise until, you know, when you're idealistic at 18 years of age, the pain that can be for a parent too.
Did they let you go with a blessing, Angela?
Oh yes, yeah, they did. But I know that it was, you know, a big wrench. You know.
Yes, and religious life was different then.
Well, do you know something? Maybe it was just myself, but I don't. You know, I think maybe I just remember all that was good, and you know, I'd have to say, I met some wonderful people through the years, and maybe it all seems as if I'm a bit of a Rosie in the garden person, but sure, look at.
Angela, thank you very, very much.
And thank you, Suzanne, for keeping me a little bit grounded. Thanks very much.
Good.
And to all the Mercies all over the world.